Do you mind if I ask a few questions about the disappearances that happened near Tears of the Clouds Lake last year around here?
Oh, Tears of the Clouds. I remember that. We had every would-be survivalist, every tracker for miles around up here. In fact, I think they came from New Jersey even up here to try to find those kids. And they spent 2 weeks. What a circus it was. I mean, you couldn't believe it what they did. You know what? They didn't find a thing.
Do you remember the disappearances that happened up near Tears of the Clouds Lake last year?
Yes, I do. I was part of one of the search groups that was made up of volunteers, and we were looking for a long time out there.
Well, I heard about those kids disappearing, but we hear about that kind of stuff all the time.
I think I heard something about that. I mean, people go missing fairly frequently. Which ones are those?
Those were the kids up at the Tears of the Clouds, up at the lake.
Were those the 4 young ones? I think, weren't those the 4, there was like the couple and then the other couple? Is that the ones we're talking about?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that was, the whole thing was very strange. We have volunteer groups that get called whenever someone is reported missing, and we go out and follow the directions of the police and whoever wants us to be doing things. And we looked for weeks. And a lot of us have had a lot of experience. It was kind of strange that we found no indication of them.
When did you first suspect that something might be wrong?
Well, I guess it was that Tuesday. Riley and I always bowl in a league together on Tuesdays, and he was supposed to be back Monday night, I think. So when he didn't show up, I couldn't get a hold of him. I just thought, we have a problem here. Something's wrong. I tried to get a hold of Peyton too, and just no answer. So I went over to their apartment, and the neighbors heard me just banging on their door and told me they hadn't seen him since.
Well, Peyton doesn't live with me in my house. She lives with her boyfriend. So I hadn't known that they didn't come back on time, but when I found out, I knew there was something wrong.
Why were you so sure something was wrong?
Peyton gets really anxious when she's late for work, and she would have called me or our dad or her boss to let us know that she wasn't going to be home on time. So there was something wrong.
First I decided to call Olivia, see if she knows where they were, and of course she didn't. She starts freaking out, and I told her, hey, I'm sure everything's okay, maybe they just decided to stay a little longer, and she's like, no, like they would have called somebody, they would have told somebody if they were staying longer. And I just told her, well, I was planning on going up there anyway. I invited her to come up, and we'll watch and we'll see that everything's okay, and they're all there.
But it wasn't okay.
No. No, it wasn't.
I hate to sound rude, but we're not far from Jersey, we're not far from New York City, and these people come up here to think they're going to play Rambo in the woods for a weekend and step off the trail and find out this isn't the Manhattan Street.
Hundreds of people that have gone missing up there.
Hundreds of people that have gone missing, but a lot of them were single hikers, wandered off by themselves. They probably fell off a cliff or something. Most of them weren't groups of people.
But to never have been found, a lot of those folks have never been found, and nor these kids. And
Again,
kids that young aren't financially stable enough to...
They could be. They had all graduated college. They were all talented, smart kids. The one, I think, had been up there a few times before. They knew that area. They weren't likely to go wandering off a cliff.
So you guys decided to go up to the cabin by yourselves. What did you think was going on at that point?
I have no clue. Brandon tried to convince me that maybe they had stayed a couple extra days and didn't call us because cell reception was bad there. But, I just couldn't help but worry, like maybe they got into an accident or something. Or I just kept playing these horrible scenarios in my head that I would make up, and I just don't know.
Right before we got there, I hadn't noticed Riley's caravan was parked kind of to the side there. It was covered in snow. It hasn't looked like it's been moved. I didn't really give it much of a thought, except for that if they decided that they were going to stay later, they would have called somebody, and there's no cell signal there. They would have driven out somewhere. I decided not to tell Annie and Olivia, and just thought that maybe they'd be inside and everything would just be okay.
You gotta know what you're doing, and I'll bet Not one of those kids knew how to get clean water or which way was north, which way was south, how to read a map, if they even had a map. I'll bet you they can only read their GPS, let alone a compass, and the GPS doesn't work up here either.
And when you got to the cabin, what did you find then?
I remember bursting in that door, yelling for them. We were all yelling for them, and all their crap was just packed up, just sitting there nice and neat, like they either just got there or ready to go.
At first I was pissed. I thought that they were all packed up to leave, and I thought that I got all worked up for nothing. But then we started shouting for them, and I shouted out the window, I screamed, and they were nowhere to be seen.
One of the things that you saw there was Kruger's collar. Kruger's your sister's dog, right?
Yeah, just weird that they would just leave it on the table like that. I mean, I don't know why they would take it off of him.
I knew that there was a dock near the end of the cabin, so I thought I would go down there. Maybe they were down there doing something, and so I left the girls up there at the cabin, and I went down to the dock to look for them.
And then you noticed the camcorder.
Yeah, it's really weird. Peyton, she always brings that camcorder with her everywhere. I hate it. But it's just weird that she would leave it sitting out like that. She takes it with her everywhere.
Olivia went to look at Peyton's camera to see if we could figure out, where were they from what she had been filming. And the last thing that had been filmed, the footage that we saw, it was obvious that one of them was hurt.
I only got to see the last few minutes of the footage. I freaked out, and me and Annie ran out of the cabin. We told Brandon what happened. Brandon drove us to a gas station, and he called the police.
I think there's something or someone out around the lake.
No way there's something out there. Maybe someone, maybe they were kidnapped. I might be able to admit, okay, maybe they were kidnapped and that's why we haven't heard from them. That might make sense. People get kidnapped and
Tortured.
horrible things.
Horrible
Yes,
things do happen.
They do happen, but something,
Maybe not
That's just crazy.
something, but there's an explanation out there somewhere. Other than these 4 kids just got together and ran off after graduating from college, making their careers. That was just supposed to be like a little romantic getaway, couples retreat.
I agree with you that there's an explanation somewhere, but it could totally be that they ran away.
Are you kidding me? It's like the Bermuda Triangle of the United States. There's over 6 million acres and more than 300 people disappear from here every single year. And those kids, they disappeared from right smack dab in the middle of it. I mean, so many people just up and missing. Nobody knows what happens to them. Look, we have these files, all these people just missing. Never found. Martha Allen, Jennifer Bennett, Jack Connie, Fred Gillingham, Ivory Green, Scott Howarth. I mean, I could go on and on. All missing. And that's just in the last 10 years. You know what else? Not just disappearances. No, we've had serial killers too. I bet you didn't know about them. That's right. Robert Garrow and Donald Sigsbee. They both just lost it, went nuts, and just started killing dozens of people throughout the Adirondack Park area. Nobody knows why, can't explain it. Just up and started doing it one day. And Robert Garrow, they say he probably killed even a dozen more people than he was even accused of at trial. Creepy stuff. And let's see, what else can I tell you about? I know there's lots more things rattle around in this brain up here. Oh yeah, Douglas Lake. How could I forget about him? He's one of the most famous cases we've ever had. So tragic. 8-year-old boy out camping with his family. They went to go for a hike. He just ran back to the cabin to grab something and never came back and joined the rest of his family. The trail was only like a few dozen yards away, but who knows? Up and went, vanished. They never saw or heard from him again. Hundreds of people out searching, looking, couldn't find a thing. No evidence of any kind. Police, of course, started to think, oh, it must be the family, must have been some sort of foul play or some sort of publicity stunt, but I don't believe it. I think something awful happened to that dear boy.
Later, you both found out that someone had turned the camcorder on before the 3 of you even got into the cabin.
Yeah, we didn't even know about that until a couple days later. I mean, the police told us that.
And more like accused us of it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of buzz right after they went missing. I remember that was some high drama for a while.
Yeah. Did you read any of the newspaper articles and the interviews with the police and the investigators and?
Yeah, there was some. I think there was debate as to whether or not it was a hoax. And at first, people thought that like they had been kidnapped or something, and then everyone was saying that they weren't kidnapped and that they had like orchestrated the whole thing. Is that right?
So how do you explain the camcorder was recording when you entered the cabin?
I don't know. Maybe someone broke in. Maybe someone was there when we got there and they were recording and they hid or they left. I don't know.
A couple of weeks after the police got involved, word leaked out that some of the investigators were starting to think that the disappearances were some sort of hoax. What was your reaction?
Never! My sister would never fake her own disappearance. Anyone who knew her would have told you that. She doesn't have a dishonest bone in her body. She would have at least told us that she was okay, if she was okay. You know, the police are idiots. Just because they can't do their job, they think that it's a hoax. They're full of shit.
The police came to kind of view everybody involved with the different families as suspects, isn't that right?
Yeah, that was right.
Yeah.
What a friggin' waste of time, those idiots. We didn't realize at the time that they hadn't found anything in the cabin. They didn't turn up any leads. People were starting to think that this was some fake story, some hoax.
You've watched all the footage on your daughter's camcorder.
Yep.
Why do you think the police thought this might be a hoax at one point?
They thought it might be a hoax. I mean, they spent a lot of energy trying to establish that that theory had any precedence whatsoever, that it had any reality whatsoever. Because again, they couldn't find out what actually happened. They had no idea what was really going on, so they just concocted this notion to the kids that all made it up themselves without knowing my daughter, without knowing Riley. I mean, I've known Riley and his family for quite a number of years, and the idea that they or anyone else associated with the families would do anything like this is completely, patently absurd. And I don't know what else to say about it. It's just, it makes me angry beyond what I can deal with.
Sounds like you still have a lot of animosity towards
Yeah.
the police.
Yes, animosity would be putting it mildly. They say that the most important period of time when somebody disappears is the first 48 hours. And I think about what the police were doing in that first 48 hours, which was basically asking me if I did it, or trying to figure out all the ways in which the kids could have done it themselves. Yeah, there's a lot of anger still there. Yep.
There were some very unusual things going on with the directions that we were being given at the time.
What do you mean by unusual things?
Well, the police would send us off in one direction and then they would call us back and go in another direction. And one time we were supposed to go in and search an area and we all got there. There was a pretty large group of volunteers and hung around, and finally the police said, we must have been out there about 5 hours waiting before they finally came and said, nah, we're not going to do it today, and send us all home. And then the next morning we all get calls that we have to go to the same place and search that area. So it was very strange.
You won your legal battle with the police and now have your daughter's camcorder and other possessions back from police evidence.
That's right.
The police have asked you not to release the footage to the public, but that's exactly what you're talking about doing. Why is that?
Look, someone out there knows what happened. And maybe they don't even know they know what happened. Maybe they saw the kids in the back of a truck somewhere and they don't even know they've been kidnapped. Or they saw something suspicious and they didn't know who to report it to. Or they tried to report it to the police. Reporting things to police is done. That's over with. It's been over a year and they haven't been able to accomplish anything, so now we're going to try something a little bit different.
How do the other families feel about you trying to release the film to the public?
Honestly, not everyone is on board, but the Kramers, for example, have given me their daughter's cell phone, and she has some recordings on that as well.
Are you worried this might cause problems between yourself and the other families?
No, I'm not. I'm not worried about that. I don't really give a darn how people feel about me. Okay, anything that is going to help me find out what happened to my daughter and her friends, I'm going to do it. And I don't care what the consequences are. Do you have kids?
No.
Oh, we'll see. Then you wouldn't really get it, my friend.
Can you tell me what you think happened to those 4 kids that disappeared at Tears of the Clouds Lake last year?
I know what happened to them. This land is evil. If they got in this land at all without any making permission, they're dead. They're gone. You'll never find them.
What do you mean that this land is evil?
Just what I said, it's evil. Can't you believe me? What, are you crazy yourself?
Have you been on this land for a long time?
We've been on this land for generations, and we've known for years it's an evil land. We don't know why, but it is. People get on this land, they're gone.
So what do you think happened to those 4 kids?
Like I said before, you don't believe me, you keep asking me that. I told you the first time. They're gone, they're dead, they've disappeared.
So you definitely think that those kids are dead, like murdered?
No, not murdered, it's just an evil land. I don't know why they do it, but they're gone, they're dead.
What's going on here?
Listen, I don't mind you filming my dad, but please don't make him look like a fool.
Is there any truth to what he's talking about, that the land is evil?
Well, according to the verbal history of our family, that's true. It sounds like my great-grandparents lived on this land and were part of a religious group, and a lot of terrible things happened, so they believed that the land was cursed. But my dad's family is all a few peas short of a good casserole, so I never really believed any of it.
So you don't think what your dad is saying is true?
Well, there might be something behind it, but I don't think so. And now that he's over 100, his memory isn't as good
What's
as
the
it used to
matter
be.
with you kids? I didn't bring you up to act like you're acting. You think I'm crazy? I'm not. I'm just because I'm hard of hearing. Just because I'm hard of hearing, I'm not crazy. I'm not deaf. I'm not dead. I mean, what do you mean? What's wrong with my kids? I'm not even crabby like I have a right to be.
I've got to get him in and get him his medicine. Come on, Dad, we got to go inside.
Why? What's the matter with you?
You got to take your medicine.
What medicine? I'm not ready to take any medicine now.
Well, we'll have a nice glass of milk.
You call this with the Bermuda Triangle of the United States. Is there any truth to the rumor I've heard around town that this land is cursed?
You've been talking to the Fletcher family, I bet. Yeah. Sure, some people think that the land here is cursed. Other people say that Bigfoot's taking people. Some people say, oh, alien abductions. But you know what? When there's no evidence around, nobody to blame, nothing to look towards, people just start to try to put the pieces together and make up something to kind of make it make sense to them. They start accusing, friends, family, witchcraft, voodoo, Bigfoot, aliens, you name it. They start coming up with it, trying to just explain what's going on. I think it kind of gives them more of a sense of closure. But the truth is, nobody knows what happened to all these people.
You watched all the footage on the camcorder and the cell phones?
Yeah.
One of the things that the police point to as a reason to believe this can't be real is the doll. What are your thoughts on that?
The doll. Another example of police grasping at straws. That doll doesn't tell us anything.
But isn't it true that the footage on the camcorder shows your daughter Peyton destroy that doll?
Yes, it does.
Yet it's clearly visible on the mantle in the footage recorded when Olivia, Brandon, and Annie go up to the cabin.
Yep, I know what the footage shows.
Where's the doll now?
I know what you're doing, but anything that distracts people from from helping me, helping the families try to locate their loved ones, I'm not prepared to talk about it. Okay, the doll is the doll. The doll was destroyed, even though you see it later on the video. No one knows where the doll is now. Okay, if you ask me, the doll got misinventoried by the police. They made a lot of mistakes, and it's just insulting to me. When I'm worried about what has happened to my children, to my child, and to her friends, it's insulting to me that they want to focus on what happened to this doll.
Peyton, your own daughter, seemed to think there was more going on than just a person or people attacking.
I don't believe in the supernatural, okay? I don't think it was anything crazy like that. She was terrified. She was absolutely terrified. She didn't know what she was saying. She didn't know what was going on. I don't believe that anything like that happened. I think it was a person or persons that specifically set out to do this.
What about the symbol?
What about it?
Don't you find it all strange that this unknown symbol is carved into rocks where your daughter and her friends found the doll and it's seen later again at the cabin?
Look. The police and the private investigator I hired all looked into the symbol. They can't find any sort of meaning to it whatsoever. There's no source for it, no sort of ancestry to the symbol whatsoever. I think that it's just some Native American symbol they don't know about that just happened to be coincidentally there at the time. I don't think it has anything to do with what happened.
It sounds like you've been doing this for a while. What do you think happened to those kids?
I have been doing it for a while. I've had a fair amount of experience over the years looking for people who have disappeared, and there have been many. It's real hard to figure what happened to them. No bodies, no trace. If they went out hiking in the winter and they didn't have enough warm clothes, hypothermia is a serious issue. When people get hypothermic, they stop thinking clearly and they run in the wrong direction. They take clothes off because they're too hot. But we never found any clothing. They had to have gotten far away from the search area, which was quite large, because we never found any trace. I don't know. We have bears, we have wolves, coyotes. There's a possibility that they all kind of scattered in panic and died out there and got eaten by critters, but we never found any sign. No clothing, no bones, nothing. It's very hard to figure out.
Those kids are going to turn up a lot like most of them do, or maybe they never will. You know, it's 6 million acres in this park, and more than half of it is just vacant. When I say vacant, I mean no campsites, no trails, no nothing. So if those kids just decided to go off and play Survivor for an overnight, that's all it takes. 1 mile off the road might as well be 100 miles off the road when you get out here. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about that, but it happens here a lot. That's part of living in the park.
Those kids are gone. They are murdered. They are buried. They are not coming back.
That's a little gruesome. No, they could totally be happily living it up on white sand beaches with pina coladas and strawberry daiquiris.
They were too, granted, you never know what happens behind closed doors. But for the most part, they seem like very well-rounded, well-structured kids.
Very well-rounded, well-structured kids. But you never know what goes on behind closed doors. And one good family fight, you know, with a group of close friends like that, all it takes is one person being really upset at their family to convince everyone that running off to sandy beaches is actually a really good idea.
But not
She's a little dark. They totally just ran off.
If those kids had just gotten lost, the police would have found them. We had search and rescue teams besides the police up here, and the search and rescue teams are top notch. We didn't find a thing, and they were here for 2 weeks searching.
So what do you think happened to them?
I think they were murdered. And if I were investigators, I'd be paying close attention to the family, to the parents, close relatives, or close friends. Because whoever did it took the bodies out of here.
What do you think happened to your sister?
I don't know. But what I do know is that she did not fake her own disappearance.
All I know is that just something happened up there. Someone was after them. Something was after them.
Something?
I know it's kind of hard to explain, but what I saw on that friggin' camera it was strange. All I know is that it didn't seem normal. I just hope they're okay.
Do you have anything you want to say to the people watching this right now?
I lie awake at night wondering what happened to her. You know, is she out there somewhere? Does she need me? Is she hurt? Am I ever going to see her again? Someone watching this right now knows what happened up there. All we are asking, all I am asking, all the families are asking is that you come forward and give us some closure, some sense of how we can deal with this and move on and live our lives. Please just help us find our kids. I'll tell you what else. Whoever did this, there is no place on earth that you can hide from me. I will find you. And if you have harmed one hair on my daughter's head, I will teach you the meaning